Hey, what's going on, beautiful jellyfish? It's Tracy. Thanks so much for taking time today to hang out with me. I really appreciate it. And today we are talking about budget cards. These are all cards that you can buy for under $1 for your commander decks. And some of them you can get the foil for under $1, which we love a steal. So listen, I do talk about some expensive cards on this channel. I get it, but I'm also like a budget babe at heart, right? Like if I can get a foil of a card I love for under $1, that's what I'm talking about, you know? So anyways, we're talking about a couple of different things today in this video. Let me make my cards bigger because I can't see well. And we're starting off with a new card. This is from the new Lord of the Rings set, and this card is called Many Partings. And we love mana acceleration. We love like cheap mana acceleration too, like mana cost. So this one's really simple. You tutor for a basic land, you put it into your hand, and then you get to create a food. I feel like this card does like two things, and I'm actually shocked that it's only 1 mana. We get that little bit of food. You can also buy the foil for literal cents, which like we absolutely love. I don't own this card. I have so much other mana acceleration in my decks, but if I really needed something and I just needed a thing that was really cheap, I would definitely pick this up. It is a basic too, just as something to note, but there you go. It's a good card. This card is actually hilarious, and you can also get the foil for under $1, which we absolutely love. And I think this card is actually hilarious. I love this. I was playing many weeks ago, and my friend Trav played this card, and I was like, I absolutely have to talk about this card on the channel because it's hilarious. And I think if you guys don't know this card, you're going to be introduced to the world of the magic card called Contraband Livestock. There's a lot of cards that are like this. Some of them are actually going to be talking about in a little bit, that you get rid of your opponent's creature somehow, and then they're left with like just a laughable creature. This is a great card to do that. If you have already been running your path, your swords, you need something a little bit extra, this is the card for you. It's 2 mana, you exile target creature. There you go. We love that. It's so critical in Commander to exile stuff. Destroying stuff is really solid, but if you can exile something, we love that. Then you get to roll a d20. Depending on what you roll, your opponent gets one of these things. And to be honest with you, I don't think any of these are really bad, because whatever you're getting rid of was much more threatening than whatever it is that you're going to give them. And if you roll a d20, it's just, you just get the best of both worlds, because then they get a 0/1, which is hilarious. So we love this. It exiles something and they get something. Who cares? You don't care about whatever token it is that they that you give them. So I love Contraband Livestock. I don't run it. I don't have anything that I need to run it in, but I think it's hilarious. There you go. Okay, this card I discovered, and I don't run this, and I don't know what deck I would run this in, but I want to run it in something because I just think it's so fun, and that is Whirlwind of Thought. You can also, it doesn't look like you can get this card foil cheaper, which is a little bit sad. This one might be like on the cusp of being like $1, so it might be like slightly more, but it's a good one, okay? Whenever I do the ones, it's always a good card, okay? This card's super cool. So it's a 4 mana enchantment. When you cast a non-creature spell, draw a card. There's really not like a whole lot to say, but if you're playing Jeskai colors and you're doing this, I would definitely look into getting this card. It's a solid one. I like it. Okay, remember how we talked a little bit earlier about like giving your opponent something laughably hilarious? Here's another one for you in a different color. Kenrith's Transformation. Okay, so first off, it is about if you get to draw a card. We love that. We love drawing cards. Then, enchanted creature loses all abilities, and it's just a green elk. This is funny. I love this. I just think that this is honestly hilarious. Ooh, let's see. Can we get the foil for under $1? Let's see. No, the foil's a little bit more. It's like $2, which is not super bad. This card's really, really funny. If you're like, green has some of these cards. There's another one that I think I'm thinking of too. Is it Lithoform? I think that one's a little bit more expensive. And I feel like there's another one too that green does, that you exile your opponent's thing. In my opinion, the best card to target is your opponent's commander, because that card is enchanted with it, and then their commander is just a 3/3 and it loses all abilities. It's hilarious. I love it. You should play it. It's great. I have sadly never run this card because I just don't have a deck it fits in, which is honestly a travesty. Distant Melody. And the only deck that I could realistically think that I'd run this in is Alila, but the problem is I'm trying to stay away from like instants and sorceries in that deck because I want to get the triggers off of her. But if you're running a tribal deck and you're running blue, I'd really recommend you to run Distant Melody because it is very cheap, and you choose a creature type, so you're running this in a tribal deck, and you get to draw a card for each permanent of the type, which is so incredibly fun. The art is also really stunning. What's not to love? Draw cards. We love it. We love it. This card is a new card. It is very cheap. Very cheap. And I have thought about purchasing this card for Marchesa, and I still might. I sometimes I have cards that I'm like, I think about, and then if there's ever something that I'm like, okay, I want to take out, like this is a card that I would definitely look into, and that is Discerning Fiancaer. Very cheap. You can also get the foil for under $1. It's a 3-mana 2/3. Beginning of your upkeep, if an opponent controls more lands than you, create a treasure token. One thing I really haven't liked that Wizards has done is I feel like given white the opportunity to like have more ways to like get treasures and like get, you know, mana acceleration, because in the past it's always been something that's really been lacking. And so I like that they're giving us the options to do something like that. And then it does have this 3-mana effect. Choose another player, they gain control of target treasure you control, and you get to draw a card. So I like that kind of little bit of politics with it, which I just think is really fun. You're like, oh, I'll give you like this treasure token, and then like I get to draw a card. It's like everybody really wins. And I also think too, what's really funny about this is like you could also give the treasure token to someone who has like a ton of mana if you're not in the mood to like be nice. It's a fun little political card. I think it's fun. I'm gonna put this off to the side because I think I want to put that on a list for like a maybe future. This card I saw Trav run, and it is hilarious. Let's see. I think you can also get this foil. You might not be able to get the foil. It's a little bit more the foil than $1, but Midnight Clock. As soon as I saw Trav play with this card, I was like, I have to talk about this. And I actually put this on my list to put on for Alila because it's an artifact. It's also like a mana acceleration. I love when things are multi-purpose. It's a mana acceleration, but it also does something else. So at the very least, you're just getting a mana out of it, which is really cool. It also doesn't enter the battlefield tapped, which I love. You can put hour counters on this. You can do this as many times as you want as you have mana. But at the beginning of each upkeep, put an hour counter on Midnight Clock. And then when the 12th hour is put on this, shuffle your hand and graveyard into your library, then draw 7 cards. You get to exile this. I just think this card is so fun. I don't necessarily have like a reason to run this in Alila. Like I don't have instances where I frequently need my graveyard shuffled or anything like that. But I just really like this card, and I just think it's really funny. And I don't feel like it's a card that maybe your opponents would necessarily target, and you can just kind of keep it around and use this on a mana acceleration. And then if your opponents feel a need to like get rid of it, but I just like that it automatically on each person's upkeep. It's not your upkeep, so you're gonna get this off quicker than you need. And if you don't have anything else to do with your mana, you can just dump counters into this, which I just think is really fun. I just want to play with this card. I just think it's really fun. This is probably the card that I'm most excited about in this video, and if you're just looking for like a fun card to run, pick this up. I just think it's silly. Okay, so this card is a card that I know Paul really enjoys, which is awesome. And it was so funny because he was speculating that this card might be kind of expensive, and I think some people talked about this card possibly being banned. I don't know if you guys heard that, but Mirkwood Bats. This card is absolutely ridiculous. Whenever you create or sack a token, each opponent loses 1 life. You can also get the foil for under $1. We love that. This card on the surface level might seem slightly underwhelming, but what I really need you to keep in mind is if you're maximizing this with a token strategy of really anything, if you're playing with like creature tokens, if you're doing food tokens, treasure tokens, clue, did I say clue already? All those sorts of tokens, every single time you create and sacrifice, like I feel like this card needed to just be like one or the other. The fact that it's both is absolutely devastating. You create a treasure, you sack it, whatever, each opponent loses life. This card's honestly ridiculous. It does so many different things. You can also choose someone goes to kill it, you're nope, I'm gonna sacrifice some tokens in response. Love it. This card's awesome. I've seen the effect that this has. Like Paul, when he has this in his painter deck, he can make so many tokens, and then every time people are losing, this card is really gets out of hand really fast in the right deck. Okay, The next card is a card that as soon as I saw this card being printed, I knew immediately that I had to pick it up for my Rain deck, and that is Ruby Daring Tracker. We love little mana dorks like this. I love cards like this. I really do. Really, really cheap mana accelerations cards. I also love that this card has haste. That might seem like a really small thing, but I like that. It is 2 mana, but what I really love about this card is that it also has, it's that little bit of mana acceleration you can tap immediately, but if you don't need it for a mana acceleration, or maybe you have vigilance or something like that, whenever it attacks while you control a creature with power 4 or greater, it gets +2/+2, which I think is so incredibly cool. I also think it's really easy to get a creature with power 4 or greater. Like in my Green deck, my commander has that, but I also have a lot of other creatures that give this that bonus. So it'd be really easy for me to make this then what does that become? A 3/4, which is really good for 2 mana. I like that this card has the versatility. It's incredibly inexpensive, and you can also get the foil for under $1. Love that. The last card is a board wipe, and I really like this board wipe, and I'm a little biased because there's a lot of board wipes that I love, but I like the little bit of uniqueness in this board wipe, and that is a time wipe. What I really like about this card is that you get to bounce a creature to its owner's hand. It's you control, so you're not out there making friends with people. You can't do that. What I really love about this, I have this card in Alila, and I actually need to pick up another one in Grand Arbiter. What I love about this card is that you get to basically target your commander most often, all the time. You get to target your commander, bounce that back to your hand, and then you get to destroy all of their creatures. There's not a whole lot to say here. It's just a board wipe, but it's slightly elevated from something like your Day of Judgment or whatever, which I also do love, and I run those cards as well. But I like that this gives me a little bit of protection, so that way I can then recast my commander from my hands, as an example, or I can do that next turn. It's just a really, really great card, and let's find out, is the foil, I think the foil's like on the cusp of like being, yeah, the foil is like a little bit more than $1, but there you go, as an option. So it's a good board up. If you're running these colors, I definitely recommend this card. So guys, that is everything for talking about budget cards. I love filming these videos. I think it's so fun to talk about cards that are really, really cheap, especially if the foils are under $1. We love that. We love that so much. So if you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel if you're not already, and I'll catch you on my next one.